Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of OA News Overtime. Jordan Hill with Justin Lee.
We're back again. Here we are, doing the thing.
Had kind of I wouldn't say a week off. We were running around back and forth from Montgomery last week, but didn't have a podcast last week, but plenty to catch up on. A lot of moving parts and a lot of kind of transactions that's been going around Auburn sports.
Yeah, man. No, it's definitely busy. It's a busy time, man.
But the nice thing now is school's out.
Our dear viewers, we've returned. By popular demand.
For anyone who missed it, we were covering the state championship series in high school baseball. Shout out to Auburn High baseball, but we were running back and forth from Montgomery and got to go to the Biscuit Stadium. That was the first time I've ever been. I was impressed.
Yeah, it was fun. It's the first time I've ever been in a media capacity. Yeah, it was nice. It holds up. Because, I was in that thing when it first built in, 2003 when I was, 12. Hey, it's still nice. Hasn't fallen apart yet.
I liked it. We were able to sit right behind home plate, and they had a space in the press box, and I went up there at first, and I was like, dude, I'm sitting behind home plate. I'm really going to experience it. And it was fun. And
it was nice.
Auburn High won it. Auburn High won the dang thing.
This was the first time we were in a crowd for a while, too.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah, walking through everybody to go talk to players afterwards, it definitely crossed my mind that I was like,
it's a little different, yeah.
Not something I've done in a while, but it was fun, and shout out Auburn High for getting that championship. But let's turn.
Big dubs, blue map.
Blue map, got it and threw it in the trophy case, man. Let's start with the big news of this week with Auburn football, and that's TJ Finley.
TJ.
Former LSU quarterback.
We got a battle brewing, Jordan.
Something like that. He's going to be a sophomore when he gets to Auburn. Played in 5 games last year at LSU. Decides to transfer. Justin, I think a lot of people. I'm sure there are people that kind of see this as the competition is brewing.
Sure.
But I think for the most part, I've seen people be pretty reasonable about the reaction. But what is your reaction with Auburn adding TJ Finley, a guy that's got a little bit of SEC experience under his belt?
Well, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I didn't even think about it, is that was his COVID year. So he's still a freshman, and I would think he still has his red shirt. So, it's instant competition, and it's someone who could push Bo and yada, 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 coach speak, everyone loves competition or whatever. But, it makes sense in a way because even if he doesn't unseat Bo, which I don't think is going to happen, he still could redshirt this year or next, and be still young, a sophomore when Bo leaves. So that part of it I think is a little underrated. It's he's adding a transfer. That means it doesn't necessarily mean he has the same eligibility left as Bo. You know what I mean? He's not kind of assume he's an older guy, but he's not. So I think that's kind of an underrated part of it. Is it's a good solid. If it's a competition, but even if it's not, for him, he can still be a solid backup and still have a lot of time left.
I agree. And the thing now that we've seen with quarterbacks, I think you can never have too many on your roster at one given time because guys are going to leave. We've seen, look over at Georgia with Justin Fields and Jake Fromm, those guys that if they don't win the job, they're going to leave. So you got to be kind of expecting a little bit of turnover looking forward. And like you said, you're getting a guy in TJ Finley that has a potential to be there for a while if he decides to stick around. And I think that he steps in and he's still a little raw. I know turnovers were a big problem for him, last year. He was a true freshman. It wasn't like he had been redshirted.
Yeah, anyone who saw him play Auburn, and Kevin still got him benched. You know what I mean?
See, they need to just play him against Georgia because his best game was against Will Muschamp at South Carolina.
Oh, I see. Now he's an analyst.
Now Will is
going to go get him
in Athens, so maybe that's when you get the attack on there. But I like the pickup from the perspective as it's a guy that's got SEC experience. I think he's a guy that's got a good chance to be your second-string guy. It's probably going to be either him or Grant Loy, who we saw very limited action from last year in his first year.
It's going to be TJ.
Yeah, so probably TJ.
And Demetrius, listen, we love Demetrius here on OA News Overtime.
We've talked about it before. Us here at the show, we're big.
But he's a little bit of a project. He's a little bit of a high upside. The skill set he brings is a little bit different. So a little bit more of a Nick Marshall type of player. You know what I mean? So a little bit of a project, a little bit of, hoping high ceiling, low floor kind of thing. I mean, if you're looking at it objectively, so
yeah. And the thing with him too is he's just going to be a true freshman. I mean, so
Right.
you've got time to invest in him and see what
Right.
he can become. But
Right.
I don't think most people expected him to come in and be like, oh, he can start from day
No.
one, because it's just
He's
as
playing-
good as he was in high school. This is this whole different ballgame.
Out there at North Shore, man.
Winning games, he went like 48-2 in high school. Something
yeah.
just bonkers.
Yeah, they went crazy. And hey man, 6A Division I in Texas, that ain't no joke.
We need to. I'm just going to let you have your own podcast talking about the high school football. in
Texas high school football.
But
Ain't no joke, brother.
Any other thoughts on TJ? I mean, I think we've kind of covered it from the fact that I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think this addition puts Bo's job in jeopardy, but I think that
He's got to compete for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, so like, here's why it makes sense for TJ. It's not just, why he's not just resigned to be a backup is that, hey, there was a coaching change. So, like, Bo's got to start over. Bo doesn't have the inherent trust of a coach like Gus who recruited him, since he was 15 years old or whatever, right? Like, so it's a new coaching staff. That's always a new feeling. Spring is in the air, you know what I mean? Like, it's always, everyone's kind of starting from ground zero. So, yeah, it makes sense if you come in and take a shot. But that's, like I said, that's why it makes sense. Come in, take a shot at him, push him, and if not, you can still be his younger backup, right? So it's like best of both worlds. You're like a transfer coming in, competing, but it's like you're signing out of high school and you're being the young backup too. So, looking at it, at first when you look at it, you might be like, TJ Finley, that doesn't make any sense. But when you look at it, it actually does.
And I think another thing that might have drawn TJ to Auburn was look who he gets to work with as far as quarterback.
Sure.
Brian Harson's got a background. Obviously, he played the position and has been, really lauded for his work with quarterbacks. And then Mike Bobo has a history as well as having really good success with quarterbacks. So maybe that was part of the draw too, was even if I don't start in 2021, I'm getting to work with these guys who can really get the best out of me and see what I can become as a SEC quarterback down the road.
Did you know that Brian Harsin recruited the number 2 and number 3 draft picks in the NFL draft?
I'm so glad I was sitting down when you told me that, because I almost fell out in the floor.
It's a fun fact.
Fun fact.
It's a fun fact for you guys.
If anyone did not watch the draft, may have missed that. It got brought up maybe 3,000 times in the Lee County metropolitan area.
Yes.
Let's go back to last week
year.
with a couple of additions. One on the football side, one on men's basketball that we didn't get to talk about.
Sure.
Donovan Kaufman from Vanderbilt, safety that Auburn is bringing in. He's being reunited with his head coach from Vanderbilt, with Derek Mason.
Yeah, listen, we predicted that here on OA News Overtime. This is your one-stop place for recruiting news. No, it's not.
Yeah,
Do not come to us for recruiting.
Please don't sue us either.
That's not what we do.
You feel like you are number one, because we are most certainly not. But
Yeah.
we thought that made a lot of sense.
Reading the tea leaves, I think is what I said.
Something like that.
Your former coach, go hang out with him. So I remember I retweeted Marco Domio. It's like, this is the added bonus, because Marco Domio was here and he just went to UCF to be with Gus. This is the added bonus of the transfer rule, is like players can actually go be with the coach they wanted to be with without being penalized.
And think
you
about
get penalized just because some athletic director decided to cane your coach. And this lets you go. Marco can go be with Gus, right? And this guy Kaufman can come be with Derek. It makes that's a very positive side of this new rule.
And even on the other side of that with the coaching thing, like I remember when Lane Kiffin left Tennessee to go to USC after 1 year, people were like, oh, well, he gets to leave and his players got to stay. So like you said, that kind of opens that up. I think of all the additions Auburn has made so far, Donovan Kaufman is probably my favorite. Not because I think he'll necessarily start. I think he's got a chance to compete for that second safety spot, which would probably move Ladarius Tennyson back to nickel. But I think at the very least, he's probably going to be one of your kick returners. He had a lot of success. He only played in 2 games last year, so I think it's still fair to say he's not proven, because he didn't get to play the whole year at Vanderbilt. He kind of had a medical issue that cut his season short. But he did really well in the games that he did return kicks.
Yeah.
And I think he's got upside. And with Derek Mason, if you look at one position or one position group that, throughout his college coaching career that stands out, it's in the secondary. He's done a really good job of finding guys and making the most of those guys. And so I think he probably spotted something that he really liked in Kaufman in high school, and now he's got a chance to come in here at Auburn and see if he can earn a starting spot right away.
I was thinking about kick returners, and I was like, what? Because I realized Tank was returning kicks at A-Day.
And
get him out of there. Good grief. He should never return another kick in his life. Well, until the NFL.
So, I mean, Kaufman can be the guy that kind of helped that.
Get him out.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta make plays in all three phases, Justin. That kicking game, man, that's where games are won.
End up going 7-5 because your running back tweaked his ankle on an opening kick against Alcorn State. Get out of here.
Get it right.
Oh yeah.
Let's put a little respect on the zips.
So they were gonna play Alcorn last year. That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I think that makes sense, and I think he's got a chance to come in and probably play.
Yes.
I mean, he's got a chance at least to compete in fall camp to try to play.
Yeah. No.
Get in the mix.
You like versatility.
You love it. You can't teach speed. I know that much.
Here's a guy who can play multiple positions. All right.
That's what we want is versatility on this podcast. So switching.
Who's the other one? Kaufman?
Going men's basketball. KD Johnson.
KD.
From Georgia.
Yes.
Decided that he's going to stay in the SEC.
It's just like Desi. It's like, hey, experience. Experience, productivity. I don't know how good he is a defender, but when they got Desi, it was defense and experience. So here's another experienced guy.
I mean, he didn't even start a single game for Georgia last year, and he was Georgia's second leading scorer.
Right.
He's got a lot of potential. He was sort of in a situation that mirrored Sharif Cooper in that he had some academic issues, and he missed, I think, the first 10 games for Georgia. And then it was when he came on, he came on. So I think that this is maybe an underrated pickup for Bruce Pearl, that he could come in and get in the mix and maybe, contribute in a big way as one of the guards on this team.
I wonder if he's cool with not starting. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm kind of interested in because, hey, he had to be cool with it at Georgia. He didn't. Because
someone has to be cool with it. Because this roster is stupid.
That's the thing. I've seen where there's been a few stories out there of projecting the lineup, and it's who doesn't start? I mean, I feel like maybe Desi, but he's going to play a lot of minutes.
Desi's going to play a lot of minutes.
You could make an argument for any of these guys. I mean, you can pencil in a Walker and probably Alan Flanagan. I think.
Sure.
It's just going to be a total mix. But with KD, I think that's a big pickup and continue to sort of bolster this roster. And it's funny talking to Bruce, and we can kind of talk about this too. We had another availability. I mean, I think we're just going to do a podcast every time we have an availability.
An ambush.
So we may not be back till mid-August or something like that. But Bruce talked about, sort of getting this group together. This was the first week they could kind of all be together. And there's only a few of the new transfers that are here right now. But this is going to be a crucial time for some of these guys to get in and kind of get to know each other and try to figure out what lineup's going to be the most effective going into the winter.
How was the ambush? How'd it go? Where were they?
They were at Auburn Arena.
Where was the interviews? I saw him sitting.
Yeah, it was, if you go right in Auburn Arena, where, the Charles Barkley statue is, it's immediately to the right. It was a little, not like a
rich people place?
Yeah, that's exactly. Okay. So we would know nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
In this area. But yeah, so they just had them kind of.
So was Brian Harsin too good for that crappy little media room down there?
I guess they just decided. They probably
the football coach.
They probably just decided that it was easy enough to just go right in there, and because I figured
I was looking at that background. I was like, where are they?
I wanted them to just stay outside because we were outside for the Birmingham ambush. Yeah. Let me post up on Chuck. Let me be hanging down with my mic, Coach, talk about the fans here in Lee County.
A little inside baseball for the viewers. The ambush tour is where they go and talk to these alumni clubs, right? Like Birmingham Alumni Club, whatever. I don't know who it was this time.
I don't know.
Nashville, it's just Auburn. But it's so the writers drive to Birmingham to talk to someone that you could have talked to 5 minutes down the road.
And that's the thing. There's so few media availabilities, and especially this year because of COVID.
Right.
There hasn't been that many opportunities to get face-to-face. It's also good with the football coaches because you can introduce yourself.
Sure.
And that's something with a new coach. And throwing in COVID, it's just not been something a lot of us have been able to do.
Well, and the reason they do that is they go to Birmingham, so then the local Birmingham paper can go, hey, how do you feel about the fans in Birmingham? You know what I mean?
There are no more local papers. So
right, there are no.
It's just TV people.
It's
I was very pleased. I want to give a shout out Jack Patterson from Columbus. He asked
Jack.
He didn't ask how are the fans in Columbus. He was like,
we saw Jack in Montgomery.
yeah, Jack was there and Rex Castillo.
Yeah.
They were getting work done with WRBL, just killing it.
Shout outs to the boys.
We're here with them, man, and they got their own podcast. So once you
They
go
do?
listen to this, go listen to them.
I didn't know they did.
But anyway, shout out for Jack because he asked like a really helpful question, not a how are the folks? What do you think about the fans over there in Columbus, Georgia? Like he actually asked a question that was useful. So shout out to Jack.
I like them.
But,
I like fans.
Yes, fans. We like the fans and looks at hand to see what city. It's like the rock concert. Like, hello, Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, well, actually, we're in Milwaukee. So. But yeah, so the biggest things kind of transitioning to the ambush.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I mean,
Sure.
you know, I was able to ask Harsin a question about quarterbacks, and the funny thing is, like, you kind of have to walk a tightrope when it comes to asking this question because TJ Finley's committed, but he has not signed with Auburn.
Right.
We cannot ask specifically what is it about TJ Finley.
We
you
could.
like?
He'd say I can't talk about it.
I can't talk about
right.
it.
He can't talk about it. Yeah.
So I asked, what's sort of the competition level you're looking for from this entire quarterback
There you
room?
go.
I had to kind of, weasel my way around that. But he talked about the importance of competition throughout the roster, which was no surprise. But you got to ask it anyway. And really talking about how important it was for everybody to push everybody. And, you know, as coach speaky as that is, I think we can agree that's basically what TJ Finley's coming in immediately at least, is that there's going to be at least a little more competition at the quarterback spot.
Sure.
Compared to when it was just Grant Loy and Demetrius Davis.
Sure,
Jan.
Sure.
Let's just go with that.
Yeah, I mean, competition. Yeah. We want it all across the field, blah, blah, blah.
Other takeaways. I think we're probably more, you know, Harsin talked about the importance of June, which it really will be important because the dead period will be over on June 1st.
Oh.
And from then on, they can have people on campus, which they have not been able to do because of COVID.
Right.
So
for a long time.
Yeah, batten down the hatches since March last year, if I'm not mistaken. And as a new staff, you know, that's huge.
Sure.
And if you want to read more about that,
you
can read Wednesday's paper because I got a story about how important the recruiting and the end of the dead period is going to be for Brian Harsin
and OANow.com.
Yeah, you can get all over that. There may even be some tweets out there.
A little site we like to call OANow.com/subscribe.
And Twitter.com/AUblog. that's just
AUblarg.
AUblarg. But yeah, so he talked about that. Go out there. Speaking of Twitter, folks. Go to Bruce Pearl's Twitter and look at the photo he posted of Stretch Akingbola and Walker Kessler standing on a raft together. You got like a 6'10" Stretch and a 7'1" Walker Kessler standing on a raft together. And it's quite the sight. Like, as Bruce said, it was the damnedest thing he ever saw.
And then leave Bruce's Twitter.
Yeah, that's probably not the worst idea.
Moving on.
I will say, though, that it was interesting because Bruce talked about the fact you can get these guys together, which, I mean, I think, honestly, not just, you know, again, buying into the coach speak, I don't think there's been a more important time for Auburn men's basketball to get a team together in the offseason because this is a totally remade roster. You know, none of these guys have had a chance to play with most of the other guys. I mean, you got still some of the key guys and like Jalen Williams and Alan Flanagan, some of those guys.
Yep.
But they've had a chance. You know, he had them at the lake. They were out on the lake chilling out and kind of getting to know each other. And this week has been the start of them being able to kind of do some workouts, some lifting. And, again, what Bruce told us a couple of weeks ago was, you know, I'm going to let these guys play pickup and just see how they kind of interact with each other. So, again, I think that was important. And I think that could be really useful as Bruce kind of sees what pieces make the most sense together and what, again, the thing that's been, you know, the thing that has us scratching our heads the most is what this lineup's going to wind up looking like.
Right. And what the rotations are like. Because, like, yeah, it doesn't matter who starts, but what does matter is the rotation. Who's on the floor, how much, and with who. You know what I mean? So, Yeah, it's a lot of questions to be asked and a lot of answers.
That's been the thing that I think I've taken the most from Ambush is we've each gotten about the same amount of time with Brian Harsin and Bruce Pearl. But I think it's kind of funny. You would think with a new head football coach, that would be the majority of the questions. But given how much turnover and change has happened in the men's basketball, there's probably been more questions asked to Bruce than there has been Brian, because there's so much that, we as a beat are still trying to kind of figure out. And again, it's things Bruce is still trying to figure out himself.
Right. Yeah. Man, it's going to be a whole total overhaul. And like you said, he's still trying to figure it out. Like, he didn't think Trey was leaving, for real. It came as a surprise. So, yeah, it's going to be – I'm still wondering if they bring in somebody else. Because JT leaves, that spot's still there, right?
Yeah, and I would feel pretty comfortable, if once they get the word –
who the heck's that going to be?
Whether he's leaving or going, that they're going to try at least to go get somebody else.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Maybe they'll give Preston a Scully.
That'd be nice.
That'd be nice.
An Auburn High kid. I kind of thought they might try to go get Garrison Brooks, but he decided to go play with his dad in Mississippi State, which, you go play for
Who can blame you?
And also, you go play for Ben Howland. He's had some success.
Sure.
So that makes sense.
It's a fun time.
Let's switch gears to the Diamond, and we're going to start with AU softball. Auburn softball season ended in the Tallahassee Regional with a 1-0 loss to Kennesaw State. #HootyHoo.
Woof.
I gotta say, I'll leave this to you, Justin, but is there a more fitting end to this season for Auburn softball than a 1-0 loss?
Woof. Bro, they can't score runs. Like, you want to talk about an overhaul and a project. What do we say? So we said there were 25 SEC games, 24 plus a tournament loss. And in 15 out of 25 SEC games, they scored 1 or 0. It's like, it's not going to win. You can't do that. And then, for it to end with a 1-0
to Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw State, who had already lost. You're in the losers bracket. You're playing a loser. And it's tough, man. And then that first game ended in a way, I'm not going to call anybody out, but that first game ended in a way that you don't want to see as a fan. So, but hey, look, it's been a few days, so the Mickey Dean era is continuing, and they have a strong they have 2 strong pitchers to build around, but they've got to find bats. There's a lot of super seniors leaving from the COVID year. I think 5 or maybe 6. And then a couple of regular seniors are also leaving because of scholarship issues. This stuff's complicated because they only get 11.7 or whatever.
Yeah, with baseball and softball, trying to figure out that is a little more complicated than a football situation.
So I know Alyssa Rivera and all those super seniors are leaving, and then McKenna Dowell is leaving too. Philip Marshall wrote about it, so go check out Philip on 247. He has the who's leaving. So there are spaces to be filled. There is new blood to be brought in, new bats to bring in. So we'll see. That's got to be the main focus. And it's a blessing that you have the pitchers that you have Shelby Lowe and you have Maddie Penta to be like, okay, this is our anchor. This is where we start. This is where we lean on with pitching. So now I'm going to go recruit bats because that's what we need. So, it's going to be a change, but there is an avenue for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they've got pieces.
Like when the women's team has a losing season and only Unique is leaving, there's not a lot of room to rehaul. With softball, they have a chance to rehaul a little bit and bring in some new people.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say 2022, all eyes will be on Mickey Dean and to see if they can bounce back after a really rough 2021.
Sure.
So switching from the softball team to the baseball team, who, as we're talking, are still alive, but they have a lot of work to do. And they're going to start Tuesday night playing Ole Miss in the SEC tournament. Auburn gets in as a 12th seed and had to scrap and claw to get there. Came down to them and Texas A&M and Missouri, and getting credit to Auburn. They won 2 of 3 against Texas A&M, and then turn around and went on the road to Columbia and won 2 out of 3 against a Missouri team that just took 2 of 3 of number 3 Mississippi State. So, like Butch Thompson said earlier this week, it wasn't given to us. We didn't back into this. And
that was interesting, man. Butch didn't like that.
But really, I watched the clip. Nobody asked him like a question.
Right. He wasn't angry at a reporter.
Yeah.
He was angry at a notion that's out there.
Yeah.
Right.
They fought for it, but they're going to have to keep fighting if they want to survive. Really, even this first game, because this Ole Miss team was at one point ranked in the top 5 in the whole nation.
Yeah,
so
they try there.
They are good.
In Mississippi, Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and then LSU and Louisiana, they try there. They like baseball.
Yeah, and shout out to the Ole Miss player. I'm totally blanking on his name, who tore his ACL and is still playing. Gone like a month and is like, all right, I'm back.
Jeez.
But they're going to have to get a lot of work done, and sound like a broken record, but it's all going to be on the pitching because, the hitting has been no problem. You got guys like Ryan Bliss and some of those guys, and they suffered a big loss with Stephen Williams getting hurt, so he is not going to play. His season's done.
Right.
But you got to get somebody in that bullpen that can give you innings and help you hang against an Ole Miss team that's going to score runs if you give them a chance.
And this is the one and done round.
Yes,
so if you win or lose to advance to the real bracket, and then it's double a limb after that. So Auburn's 12th seed, Ole Miss is 5th seed. I'm just saying, man, I don't care what they're seeded. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, I don't want to run into them.
No doubt. Tim Elko is the guy I was talking about. He hit a pinch hit home run 33 days after he tore his ACL.
Good grief.
What are you talking about?
What's going on? Some of that crazy experimental stuff.
I don't know. That's just that's just pure willpower.
Was that Will Hastings? Was it Hastings and Eli Stove? Or experimental? What do you mean? They grew an ACL with stem cells or something?
I don't know. That sounds like something you have to go over to Germany or something for. When I'm Peyton Manning flying overseas doing experimental neck procedures or something like that.
Friday Night Lights when he goes to Mexico. Anyway,
we're going. Shout out Auburn women's golf. Their season ended on Tuesday. Heck of a run in NCAA.
They made the Elite Eight, man.
And then got up against an Oklahoma State team. And this was match play, correct, today?
Yes.
So wound up playing, and it looked like played some pretty close matches between Oklahoma State and just couldn't get it done. But another really good season from women's golf.
They probably have a great culture up there at Oklahoma State.
Because
of the men.
That's what I was going to say. Like Ricky Fowler, I think, played at Oklahoma State.
There's 3 of them, 4 of them.
I think there's a few guys that's come out of Oklahoma
on
State.
PJ Tour, yeah. So I bet Oklahoma State, no slouches. I'm sure some of that rubs off on the women's team too. So, Stanford's going to win it all, so who cares?
And I got to go see, too, if you've ever looked at Oklahoma State's various sports, they have different logos for each sport.
Do they?
The cowboy, yeah.
Oh, they adjust the cowboy.
They just adjust the cowboy. I think the golfer, he has a golf club. And, I think there's a wrestling one.
That's funny.
It's too good. Oklahoma State.
Is he in a singlet?
I think he might be. We'll have to look after this podcast and see. Speaking of wrestling.
Can we get wrestling in the SEC? Oh, yeah.
We should.
Speaking of wrestling.
We should. Speaking of wrestling, Justin, tell us about this weekend's plans.
Hey, man, we're trying to go to Jacksonville. That's the plan. So, man, we're going to Jacksonville. We're going to see Double or Nothing. Me and Justin and I think Josh is going, dude. So we're gonna have the Auburn beat crew up there. That's how you know something big is gonna happen, is when the Auburn beat is all somewhere. Look at that.
Just for the listeners at home, we have the Oklahoma State. Is it Pistol Pete? Is that
Pistol Pete?
Oklahoma State. He's swinging a golf club.
This is Swinging Pete, bro.
Yeah, Swinging Pete. Yeah. So if you get bored, go look up all the different logos. But I just had to pull that one up. That's too good.
That's crazy. So pull up the wrestling one. We're gonna Double or Nothing in Jacksonville. It's gonna be fun. They're doing it's one of their first pay-per-views with a full crowd, but they're still in their bubble
This
zone.
is the best one.
He's jacked.
He's jacked.
Can we get a test on him? Performance enhancing. Look at the other ones are not that jacked. His arms are generally exposed. Look at it.
Pistol Pete is showing out as the wrestler.
You can't wear those boots in a match.
I feel like you would definitely lose some points if you tried to.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you guys are getting ready to go to Jacksonville. I'm actually
Yeah.
about to head out
Excited.
and go to Panama City. Go
PCB, baby!
Go get a sun. I'm going to be burnt.
Let's go!
I don't tan at all.
You gonna go to La Villa? La Villa closed, didn't it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Spinnaker?
I think we're mainly just going to stay on the beach and just chill out and not think about work for a few days before we get back and get right back on it. I got to come back to the podcast, man.
Harpoon Harry's? I hope Harpoon Harry's is closed.
I'll give you a rundown when we get back.
Ooh. Tiki Bar. I like that one.
Be good.
Spinnaker.
That'd be
Spinnaker's cool.
I'm going to get a to-do list off of some of your recommendations before we head out.
Dude, Spinnaker's crazy because it's like a restaurant and then like it turns into like La Villa. Like during spring break.
I gotta say I never experienced it, but maybe that's about to change.
Ooh, boy.
Maybe we'll just go over there and head up to Jacksonville after that and just make a whole weekend.
Ooh. I've experienced some things in Panama City Beach.
Well, to try to protect both of our standings with the local municipalities, I think we're going to end it on that.
Let's call it.
Let's call it. Justin, thanks again for coming on with me.
Thanks, Jordan.
And until next week, everybody take care.